Hello and welcome to another edition of 310 to Left, presented by your New England Ford dealers and F-Series, the best-selling truck in America for 48 years and the official truck of the Boston Red Sox. I'm Tom Caron from Nesson. He's Alex Speier of the Boston Globe. And Alex, we are a third of the way through the 2025 season. And a wise man once said, you take a third of the season to figure out who you are, a third of the season to go after it, and a third of the season to take those things and make a run for the pennant. So we're step one into it. What are the Boston Red Sox?
I think that was Sun Tzu, Tom. This is obviously a rough moment in the year for the Red Sox. I mean, they were already kind of laying the groundwork for Marcelo Mayer to come up and join the group that they had and be additive to this, to this middle of the order that had Rafael Devers and Alex Bregman as a kind of, as a devastating tandem in the middle of the order. And now it's Mayer instead of Bregman as a result of that brutal quad injury. We all saw how crushed Alex Bregman was about the extent of the injury after that initial hope that it would be a relatively brief one. So, this is. They've arrived at this 1/3 of a moment, and yet, this is not a moment where we know what the Red Sox are. We know that they're a team in massive transition as a result of that Bregman injury that has completely transformed how they're going to be approaching their kind of mix and match alignment of their infield. This is a team that was supposed to have an offense that would be able to offer some real stability, and now there's a lot of uncertainty given the youth that exists across the lineup. It's hard to remember. It's hard to remember the Red Sox losing a contributor of the caliber of Bregman this in circa 2025 in any recent years. It's a tough blow.
Well, I've called Alex Bregman the most important addition to any team in baseball. Therefore, you would have to say he's the most important subtraction to any team in baseball. They really needed Alex Bregman, and his injury comes at a time where Trevor Story has been pinch hit for and taken out of the lineup, and suddenly the right-handed balance that you were banking on, Kristian Campbell, has struggled in his second month as a major leaguer. Yeah, what they are and what they were even before Bregman was injured is a 500 team, kind of however you want to slice it. They hover around 500 at home, around 500 on the road, around 500 when Garrett Crochet pitches, around 500. This is a team that expected to be better than that. They've been blessed with an American League East where no one has run away with things yet, though there are signs that the Yankees maybe would do that. And there are, we're going to see the Angels here in a week. There are other surprising teams in the American League that could pull away. You got to be really careful here as you enter these next few weeks. You got a lot of road games. You're going to see the Yankees, 2 different series in the coming weeks. You haven't seen them yet. It's a very, very critical time here that they don't let things fall apart. You'll probably be pretty happy if a month from now we're still talking about them hovering around 500, because that gets you a month closer to the return of Alex Bregman, and it means you've survived this difficult stretch. But it is, it was a disappointing weekend. There's no doubt about it. Alex Cora said before the homestand, we have to do something on this homestand. Well, they didn't. Guess what? They were 500 on the homestand. You finished against the Baltimore Orioles, one of the worst teams in baseball this year. Guess what? You were 500 over a 4-game weekend with the Orioles. It's glass half full, glass half empty, and I'm having a real hard time, Alex, focusing on the glass half full.
Yeah, Tom, a lot of great points that you make there. So kudos to you for being so awake and alert on a Memorial Day weekend. But it's the grab of 500. Think about how expectations have changed incredibly rapidly, right? We talked about how this year was different than the previous seasons because the expectation was contention for the postseason as opposed to the surprise ability to be in position for a postseason run. And now with the Bregman injury, you're talking about hoping to cling to 500 over the course of the next month or so. That's a radical alteration in expectations. It's reflected in the dwindling playoff odds that the Red Sox have at this juncture in the middle of the season, and the script has changed pretty significantly, right? Because the idea was, okay, have a pretty good pitching staff, have a pretty good pitching staff, be great on the days that Crochet starts, and then you'll have an offense that's able to propel the team through the summer. And instead, now you're looking at a situation where the pitching is going to have to carry the team, right? Like there is going to be a significant amount of offensive inconsistency and probably defensive inconsistency because they have a lot of people who are going to be exposed to positions that they've never experienced before. So the whole dynamic has been flipped around on this team very, very quickly. Now, I do want to emphasize that, there are some elements to the pitching staff that have a chance that do have a chance to be able to help the team weather the storm, right? Like if they can get on a run, if Crochet is this good, if Crochet keeps rolling sub-2 ERAs, they're probably going to start winning more games with him on the mound. I mean, I recognize that the offense has been inconsistent. It can't be that inconsistent. And then, we've seen good things from Buehler at times. We'll see what happens as he gets a little bit further back off of the injured list following that bursitis injury. Obviously, they're going to have to figure out stuff with Brian Bayo. Giolito has shown interesting flashes. I think that, frankly, probably surpass expectations for where he would be, given that he's only a handful of starts back after missing more than a year with his injuries. But they're going to need the pitching to be able to carry it. And then there's the other question, Tom. When's Roman Anthony coming up? And I think that, we're talking about, a team that needs a jolt, that needs to be able to deepen its middle of the order. Anthony is an quote unquote imperfect fix because he's left-handed, but he's also the best player in the minor leagues.
Right, and a team that needs a spark got one with Mayer, and just hearing the crowd for his first major league at bat was a sound we haven't heard enough of at Fenway Park, right? And you can only imagine it would be similar or more when Roman Anthony gets here. So we've got a lot going on here on this Memorial Day, but today we're going to talk about a couple of the guys who have had an opportunity to manage. One at AAA Worcester and won a couple of games with the Red Sox. That's Ramon Vasquez. We'll get to that in a couple minutes. But you were in Worcester just before the Mayer call-up. You got to speak to the manager of the Woo Sox, Chad Tracy, about watching Ramon Vasquez manage a couple of games and about his experience. Let's get to it. It's Chad Tracy, manager of the Woo Sox on 310 to Left, presented by your New England Ford dealers.
Joined again on 310 to Left by Woo Sox manager Chad Tracy. Chad, I think you're the first two-time interviewee of this season, so congratulations. How do you feel about that mark of distinction?
I'm honored, very honored.
Good. Well, I'm honored that you feel honored. The thought occurred to me. It occurred to me recently while watching Ramon Vasquez getting to manage a big league game. Like there are only so many paths that you can take to being in that seat.
Yeah.
As someone who has been around the managerial gig for literally your entire life, right? Like your dad, big league manager. How cool is it to watch someone and with whom you're in regular contact, getting an opportunity to sit in that seat?
Yeah, it was awesome. I actually texted him right after the game, and I might have thrown an expletive in there. I was like, manage your ASS off. So, I thought it was awesome to see the smile on his face after. What people probably don't know is Ramon and I managed against each other in A-ball in the California League, so I've known him for even beyond my time here with Boston. I've known him since he was with Houston managing in their system. So he's more than schooled on it, obviously, and I'm very happy for him.
Well, so much of the time we think about the role of minor league managers, like that moment of incredible accomplishment when you get to tell a player that they've gone up to the big leagues, and that's a really special part of your jobs, right? Like especially when you get to tell a guy that he's going up for the first time. At the same time, I think that sometimes we downplay that aspirational part of it. That you're in this job, like you're looking to develop as well. Right. Like to you, like how much do you think about what you would need to do developmentally in order to be a big league manager?
You're always thinking about different ways of how do I do things, how can I do things better. Is there something we're not doing that we should be? Like I think anybody that's worth their salt or good at their job is always looking and finding ways like how do you improve. At the same time, like when you're embarking on something like this, like you do have to be able to separate and say, like, my job is to get these players better and get them to the big leagues to help, right? And put yourself aside. That's part of being a leader. So yeah, you're always looking to do that. You're always self-evaluating, like, how do I make myself better? But at the end of the day, it's about these players. So you got to stay focused on that.
How different, from a developmental standpoint, in the minor leagues, like there is less game management that's involved because you have guys who need to be involved in the game at X periods of times, right? Like you are not having you're not going after Durham's like best right-handed hitter by going with a matchup righty. You have a dude who needs to be in the game that day, so it might be a lefty in that moment. What's the best? How much do you think about that kind of in-game training and trying to seek that out? Is like have you thought about doing winter ball or anything like that in order to be able to have those kinds of speaking of Ramon, Ramon has had plenty of Puerto Rican Winter League experience. Is that something you'd like to chase after?
It's something I've thought about it. I've talked to obviously Flo and Ramon and their connection to the Criollos over in Puerto Rico. I've definitely thought about stuff like that. That being said, there's the family element and the 6-year-old at home and the 10-year-old daughter that are like, where are you going? I'd be like, where are you going? But yeah, to your point, like you're right about that. We do have a bit more flexibility in AAA than maybe you do in A-ball as far as managing it. But you're also right, like you're not necessarily doing it that way. We only have one lefty in the bullpen, so when you're in the proving ground of the minor leagues, like you're trying to find like, all right, well who is it that can get righties and lefties out? Like you got to be able to do both. So there is that element to it. We do have the ability to manage a little bit more here, which I'm grateful for. But there's the limitations, obviously. But it doesn't mean that as you're going through it that you still can't siphon it out in your head. Like, all right, if I was just strictly trying to win a game tonight, like what would I do right here? And you still think that way for sure.
So we mentioned that part of the joy of the job here, a huge part of it is you are obviously trying to help. You're an extension of the major league team here, right? Yeah. Like you are trying to make sure that the major league team on any given night is positioned to be able to is positioned as best as it can be to win. Right. And that means supplying players up there and having those great conversations about when you're going up. A lot of people are interested in when you'll be having conversations with a couple of your players on the Woo Sox roster. Like, obviously, the whole season, there's been this when question hovering over Marcelo and Roman Anthony. Do you care to answer that right now? Do you have dates circled on the calendar when you expect them to be out?
No dates circled. The cliche answer is when is like whenever the moment is supposed to be, it will be, right? And that's really cliche. I get that. And I know they're really good players, and people are not wrong about how good they are. They're very, very special players. And I just look at it like that will be told to me from up top. And until that moment comes, like we have things to work on. And we have, individual at bats that you can teach them, like, hey, what were you looking for there? Why did we swing at that? Or with Roman's footwork in the outfield, like there's things that we can just keep pounding and keep cleaning up and see if we can make it as consistent as possible. I think I told you a couple weeks ago, like the fact that they're big league players, like they're going to be good ones. But it's not always that simple, right? Like, how do you get them on the roster, this, that, or the other? Do you need it right now? Like, when's the right time? And everybody's going to always go back and forth and argue about that. And we just, for us, keeping them grounded is like, you're here right now, let's get better so that we're ready for that moment whenever it does come. So we're actively doing a lot of things with both of them to try to make sure they're ready when that call comes. When it's going to be, I don't know.
But just to be clear, they are options for the big leagues. Like based on where they are developmentally, you would feel comfortable if the team asks, "Hey, what are you seeing with them?" You would say, sure, they can help you.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't even need to go further. Yes, they are definitely. I mean, I've been here 4 years managing players and veteran players and trying to get veterans back to where they are. They're good players. So it's not a matter of. He's not ready in this. That. Is there things they need to get better at? Is there things that you see peripherally that are going to show up? Of course, but that's true of any player that I've managed, whether they're 34 or 21 in Roman's case. So, but they're good baseball players.
21.
Yes.
Freshly 21.
Yes.
You've had two interesting conversations with them about positions recently.
Yeah.
As soon as Tristan Casas getting injured, that's awful to see. Yeah. And I think that everyone who's worn a uniform appreciates that. First of all, the first reaction is like, that is awful. And, you are, heartbroken for someone losing their ability to wear the uniform and be able to be on the field healthy. Immediately after that, I think, I'm not sure if it was before or after that you had the conversation with Roman that, by the way, first base, that's not a thing. Do you remember when you had that conversation, and why did you feel like you should have that conversation?
We didn't even really have the conversation. Like Roman actually jokingly, because it went all crazy. Everything's going crazy on Twitter because he's doing drills on the turf that he's been doing for the last 2 years here. And then I think he even came out teasingly and put a first base glove on just because he was poking the bear a little bit. But no, like Roman, if that was ever going to be a thing, Roman knows I would talk to him about it and explore. But like his entire focus has been on the outfield, and actually here recently has been more on left field. As I said at the beginning of the season, that was definitely going to happen. You're going to see it parsing out, and it's starting to do that. That we're starting to hone in more on left field. So that was never really that took on legs of its own, if you will. And then obviously with Marcelo, we're focusing more on second base. What ends up happening? I think Alex said it very well. Like what ends up happening at first base, like is anybody's guess. I know they're working Kristian out there. I know people see that and they speculate. Like what ends up happening with that when he's ready to do it, if he's ever ready to do it, I don't know. But in the meantime, like Marcelo's a heck of a shortstop. But like we're giving reps at second base to make sure that if something does come of it, that he's comfortable playing there on a regular basis, a semi more regular basis. And at this point, that's all it is. Like we don't want. I mean, I think he was doing about one a week, and it's going to increase right now.
Roughly four.
I would say right? 3 to 4 a week. Yeah. We're going to get him over there more often. His words, I'm very comfy at short. I was like, I know that. So like, we're going to see if we can increase reps here and get him very comfy at second, and then the rest of it will take care of itself if and when it does. But nothing imminent there. It's just when you're in this position, like you got to do your due diligence to make sure guys are ready for something if it does come about.
It is funny. Like this is really your first opportunity to manage Marcelo. Roman, you had it for the last 6 weeks of last year. What do you now know about Marcelo that you did not know about him when he couldn't play for you last year? Either on or off the field.
Nothing off the field. He's great in the locker room. Yeah. Very happy-go-lucky. Great dude to be.
Chop it up and marinate. That was a great line. That it was in a terrific Bregman feature. But yeah,
he's really good at coming in the next day, same guy, like ready to go. But I will say this, like, and he's shown it, and you see the when the game finds that guy with people on base in a big moment, I'm on the edge of my seat because he. There's been periods where he's not going so well, or something happens, he's not going so well, and then he finds the moment. He likes the moment from what I've seen so far, and I've enjoyed watching that.
How comfortable are you with him at second base right now? Are you comfy with him at second base?
I'm fine with him at second base. He showed enough know-how with that when Alex started tinkering around with him at second in spring training. And so let's go over here, and you saw things like really quickly. They were like, all right, he's not comfy. It's little things, right? Like, all right, turning a double play from that side where you're on the blind side, like just getting him more reps doing that, feeling that in the game. Those are the things that you want to expose him to, and really the game exposes you to that. You can do that and drill all you want, but it's different when a runner's coming bearing down and you sliding in. So anytime he's got a glove on his hand, I'm comfy, but there are little intricacies to every position that you have to learn and you have to get exposed to. Otherwise, it finds you in the game and you're not ready for it.
You also had the experience of moving Kristian Campbell around all over the place, like even in a relatively brief time last year. I think you saw him at second, third, short.
Yeah.
Definitely second
Center
and short.
As well, yeah.
Center field as well.
Yeah.
So how would you describe his aptitude as he moves around between positions?
He was good. Kristian was like, actually, when he first got there, if you look back on it, like he came to Norfolk and he went off in that series at the bat. He played mostly center field. He played a lot of center field early on, just based on where we were at and like how thin we were at the time. He was playing the outfield.
He's always been a hole plugger. Like it's such a weird.
Like, he's like a very raw, talented athlete. Like a guy that you just athleticism is so good that you throw him out in center. Like that's pretty good. You throw him at center. That's not bad. Played a lot of short for us too initially. So plugged him everywhere. Has things to work on everywhere, but is so athletically talented that he's able to get by. So I think. As he ages and as he continues to advance as a player and as he continues to get reps in games and in practice, keep in mind he's only been in pro ball for a couple of years, he's going to continue to get better and better wherever you put him. But yeah, we definitely ran the gamut with him around the diamond last year.
Roman offensively was extraordinary in April, I think. Like if you looked at like most of the expected statistics, like he was leading AAA and like it was like Secretariat pulling away from the rest of the field. Yeah. How would you describe what you were watching over the course of those first 4 weeks of the season?
Yeah, it was pretty spectacular. it was not just the batting average of the hits. It was like the quality of the hits. It was, it was mostly extra bases. It was driven in the opposite field gap, doubles to left center, left field line, homers to the opposite field, homers to center. It was really, really good. I think what makes Roman special is even here now he's starting to go again.
Yeah.
But there was that 2.5 week period where it's like, he's not necessarily driving it wherever. Like what makes him good is Roman's good when he's not good.
Yeah.
He was still good. Like he's finding a way. He hits a ball 104 in the hole and gets a single and a walk. He hits one up the middle hard. He finds his way on base. He takes a walk. He's on base twice still. And we're all looking at it like he's not really going good right now. It's like, but he's on base half the time. So that's the mark of a good player, that even when you don't feel right and you're not really necessarily going hot like he was the first 2.5 weeks of the season, that you're still very productive and you're still doing things to help your team win. So he hasn't had a moment yet where I'm like, man, this has gotten really bad. Like he still finds a way when things aren't the way he wants them. And I'm very proud of him for that. But here lately, that last few days in Buffalo, all of a sudden the ball's getting in the air to the opposite field again. The ball's getting driven off the wall. So hoping we get to see another heater here.
And with Marcelo, like, where would you describe you had a great ceiling showcase for him as well.
Yeah.
A 3-week period of like massive power, driving in just 1 billion runs, as you said,
Right.
The guy who really likes it when the lights are shining on him. Where is he in terms of like the gap between ceiling and floor?
A really good player. I mean, he's, Marcelo's maybe gone through a little bit more of that, but like when it's good, it's like, carry our team good.
Yeah.
Big hits, grand slam, 3-run homer, and it's like, oh, we were losing, now we're winning.
Yep.
That type of stuff. And then he maybe goes cool for a couple days, and then he'll show back up again. But the quality has been good all year. He's been very good. Maybe the last couple days in Buffalo not as much, but he's been very good at, like, in those moments, hey, we need to run in from third. He hits the sac fly. So I think he's going to be exceptionally good. Everybody goes through that. That description is more the norm of most players. But when he's going good and feeling good and gets a good pitch to hit, he can do things with it that most people can't. I think the cool thing was seeing the opposite field home runs show up too, and you're like, okay, that's in there as well.
Both of them.
And he can drive it really far this way. And a smooth looking infielder. So he's floor and ceiling high for both of them.
At some point, one of them is going up, and at some point, both of them are going up.
Yeah.
How much do you like take a moment to? They're both right now ranked top 10 prospects in all of baseball. Campbell was obviously number 3, but to have the opportunity to work with them and kind of be their finishing school before that call up, how do you take time to kind of enjoy and appreciate what that is, and guys who who have a chance to be longtime contributors to the Boston Red Sox?
Yeah, I do. I relish it. All the time. I don't know when it'll be. Like you said, it was a good way of saying I don't know if it'll be next week or a month from now or 2 months. Who knows? But I love having them around. I love watching them play baseball first and foremost. But on top of that, like, they're really great people and they feed off one another and their personality. So like it makes you smile just coming into the locker room and being around them every day. So yes, I do all the time think about, like, I'm managing 2 pretty special players here, and I'm enjoying every second of it for while I have it. So absolutely.
Perfect. Well, Chad Tracy, great to see you again. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Alex.
Great, insightful stuff from Chad Tracy. Obviously, Marcelo Mayer has been called up since we had that conversation, but everything that he said holds, save for the fact that we were talking about Marcelo Mayer's crash course in second base as opposed to third base. But this is the life of a AAA manager who's trying to do his best, and in working in tandem with the organization to kind of figure out how to provide depth to the big league squad, and that's where we're at. Marcelo Mayer is the first. Is kind of the first one up in the middle of the season, and Roman Anthony, you have to think, isn't that far behind.
No doubt about that. Listen, we had a graphic up during the broadcast with the years of service for each player on the field yesterday at one point, and it's remarkable, right? Your 3, 4, 5 hitters or 4, 5, 6 hitters were all rookies. There were 3 or 4 other players with 1+. Devers with 7 and Duran with 2+. And that's not a lot of experience. We joked about the first throw made by Marcelo Mayer. Nick Sogard did a really nice job picking that. The backstory was funny, right? Because there was a play in Monterrey, Mexico, where those corner infielders were in the same position, and Mayer made a really nice play and had a room service hop to Sogard, who dropped the ball and got the error. And so as soon as Mayer showed up at the clubhouse, Sogard went over and said, "Hey, I'm at first. I got a lot better. All right, you don't have to worry about it. I'll pick you up." And sure enough, he did. So a neat story, but again, a team that wants to be contending, is leaning on a lot of young players to learn a lot of new things. And that's why I think it's so interesting. The voice of Chad Tracy is really important on the major league roster right now. The voice of Ramon Vasquez, who we'll hear from in a second, is really important because you're coaching up. We're back to players being developed at the major league level. Only now you're developing them in a season in which you expect to make the playoffs.
And the development is happening in a way that is in many ways divorced from what they experienced coming up through the minors, right? The fact that we are looking at Marcelo Mayer at third base is not necessarily what the plan was, or at least what he was prepared for while he was in the minors. Kristian Campbell is at first base. He played everywhere on the field in the minor leagues except for first base. So this is catcher too, but this is there are David Hamilton is going to see, I think, a decent amount of time at shortstop if Trevor Story continues his struggles. His primary position has always been second base, and we may end up in a realm in order to accommodate Roman Anthony being called up, where Cedar Rafaela has to start doing the shape-shifting thing again. None of this is perfect. There's a lot that's going to be thrown at a number of people who, exactly as you say, are young in terms of their big league experience. So this is kind of this is a deep end moment in the season, I guess, is a good way of putting it.
And a guy who got thrown into the deep end is the bench coach of the Red Sox, Ramon Vázquez. He got thrown into the magic spot a week ago for the planned absence of Alex Cora. He got to attend his daughter Camilla's college graduation and be with family. Had some 20 people in for the weekend. And so he got that day off. What no one expected was the next day he would get ejected in the third inning and Ramon would get thrown back in again after the Walker Buehler situation. So we caught up with Ramon Vázquez, the bench coach, and for a moment, the interim manager of the Red Sox. Here's what he had to say. Ramon Vázquez on 310 to Left, presented by your New England Ford dealers. Joining us now is Ramon Vázquez, Red Sox bench coach. Do you even get the title interim manager for the day on Monday? Do you get that title? Is there a pay bump? Do you get anything that goes along with that?
I don't think I did. No pay bump. It was actually a good day. I had a blast. No difference in preparation for that day. Just kind of touch more base with the pitching department and see what the plan was, and it all worked out. It was a fun day.
Well, it was super fascinating to watch it play out, right? Because before that game, you had said, my one hope is that, the one part of my job that would be different is that I would be seen out on the field if I'm making pitching changes. But I really hope that no one sees me. I hope that, everyone just kind of handles the script. And then you end up spending 3 straight innings. You're out there making mid-inning pitching changes. Is there juice? Like when you step out of the dugout and onto the field to make a pitching change, what does that feel like to step onto the field in that decision-making capacity?
Well, I mean, it's a group effort. We talked about it before the game and who we want facing who, and you would hope he doesn't get to that point. And if he does, you always want those guys to start in a clean inning out there and get after it. I never pitched, but you can assume it's a little harder when you go out there with traffic, people on base, and you have to come out of a big situation. But yeah, it's part of the job, right? Some guys are not happy they're leaving their runs out there for somebody else. But that's the one part of the game that gets hard at times, and some pitchers understand it at times, some don't at times. But like I said, everybody did their job. They came through. They picked each other up, and it made things a lot easier.
Well, it was wild to see that, in back-to-back games you had these like extraordinary efforts by the bullpen, right? And everyone who you turned to, literally everyone who you turned to, ended up putting up a zero. You had 11 scoreless innings over the course of your over the course of your 2 days. The first one is, I guess, acting manager, and the second one is as promoted from bench coach mid-game manager when AC got run. Ha- are you mindful, like, after the fact, there aren't that many opportunities to audition. If you want to be a big league manager, there's this like their team. This gives you an opportunity as something of a showcase, right? Like for teams are going to see the way that you manage bullpen strategy in games. Like, are you? Does that matter? Like, are you mindful of the fact that, hey, this is now part of my resume, that like I know what I'm doing when it comes to managing a big league game and a big league bullpen, where even though like, the results worked out great, that's not always a guarantee, but it sure did run cleanly and the decision-making processes were pretty clear. Like, is that helpful to you in your career?
You know what? That's a good question. I mean, you guys are behind the scene interviewing people, talking to front office people. Like, you might know a little bit more about that than I do. I bottom line, it's my job. When he's not there, I take over and I try to make the best decisions as possible. By talking to the staff and it's not. I don't make the full decisions. We sit down and we talk about the situations and we make decisions together, just like we always do before the game starts. And everybody brings their ideas and we put them together and make a plan. I'm really not sure if that's a way of auditioning and people seeing you what you do. I mean, to be honest, I've been managing in winter ball since 2015. I've been successful down there. It's kind of like the same situation. I sit down with the staff, pitching, have a plan in a daily basis and with starters, and it's exactly the same situations. I'm actually more involved in other stuff like moves and what do we need, finding players, looking in different leagues who got released. We have a GM that does that. He brings up the names, we talk about it, and I help in those kind of areas too. That's not the case here. I'm just managing the game, when Alex is not in, but. I don't know if that's an auditioning. I don't know if people pay attention to winning ball. I think that's more of a challenge than anything else. You managing in the minor leagues. I did it 1 year, and it's so different. It's developing. It's not about winning, and winning is always good for the organization. But it's also about I've always felt players going down to winning ball. It lights up the light bulb, right? Like you're in the minor leagues and you're playing every day. Doesn't matter. You're 0 for 20, and you're gonna get a day maybe just so you can clear your mind and play the next day. But in winter ball, you go 0 for 30, you're released. You're going home, or you're really benched because you're not producing. It's a different atmosphere. It's a totally different game, and the fact that I was able to do both. I could tell it's a huge difference, in the minor leagues, kind of talking to the guys about situations, they're learning. You also teach in winter ball, but it's front office expects you to win. And if you don't win, you get fired, which I don't know how I survived last year in winter ball with a 5-15 start. It was.
You had a
it was
little
tough one.
afterglow from the year before. Yeah, you'd built up a little goodwill there. You were doing okay.
But yeah, we ended up almost 15-5 in the second half, and we ended up going to playoffs. But it's for me that's more of an auditioning than being in the minor leagues, obviously, and obviously in the big leagues. I know people talk about handling the media, which this is probably one of the hardest places with the media. No offense, but
we're very threatening. Yeah.
But it is tough. It's not just the media; it's the fans. The fans expect to win. They like good baseball. You can feel it on the field when it's little things. You see a guy laying the bunt down, and you see Duran rolled over to second base the other day to get the guy over, and you can hear the fans cheering loud, really loud, because they know their game. They want to win, and it's a good thing to hear. It's not always about the double. There's little things going on the field and during the game that is helping us to win a ball game, and they know, and that's what makes it hard here.
Ramon, at the major league level, nothing's left to chance. These aren't gut reactions you're having during a game. There's a plan in place, but we also know that the game rarely ever follows the script. Although I will say, before the game Monday, you said it'd be nice to get a couple runs in the first inning and then lock it down after that. That's pretty much what happened. You got 2 in the first, 1 in the second, and then you went on to win. How closely to what you and AC had sort of mapped out in your heads did that game go? Like, when you go into it, you're saying, I'm sort of hoping, and if this works, how close to the script did that game play out?
You know what? It did. I mean, it's always about who's available and who's not. And it happened that I'm about to manage a game where everybody's available. And that's it's an easy one. It's an easy one in a plan, when you're making the plan. But then it's the factor of we're hoping Hunter gives us the innings that we need, get us where we need to be to make those moves later on. And how can that happen? That's when I said scoring early. He's going to go out there and be more relaxed, pitching, maybe attacking the batters more. Maybe the batters, now they're down, they're trying to work walks. They're trying to walk, get him out of the game, and he can get ahead and then put him away. Maybe get ahead and get an early chase and get a ground ball and things like that. And that's what I think. That's where the game changes when you score early. And I'm glad we did. And then the rest of it, it just sort of fell into place. Bringing, we had the lefties. We brought Willie on that inning, and then he got in trouble. We brought Weiser for the righty, and he got him out in a few pitches. He got out of the inning and started the next one, and so on, and everything just fell into place right after that. I mean, I would say the Lindor double play the other day was one of the ones where we thought having Lindor facing Slayton at that point at the top of the lineup, and he worked out for the double play also. I mean, I think everything fell into place with the plan that we had. Obviously, like I said earlier, you always want those guys to be out there for a clean inning and start the inning and go on. I think it's a lot easier than kind of rush getting ready to go out there to get a big out on a tough situation. But I'm just glad everything worked out. It's one of those days.
Tuesday. Tuesday did not go according to plan, right? What you did not plan was to be back out there in the third inning the next night. And not with everybody fully available, right? Because you leaned on him the night before. Take us through that game a little bit, because I thought, again, you had the walk-off on Saturday. There were certain games along the way that feel more, but that felt like a team rallying around a moment. What was it like to be in the middle of all of that?
Well, that we have a guy spinning the IL, coming out to pitch. We're expecting some innings, and we pretty much have everybody available that day, but we knew we used everybody. We knew how we were going to be the next day. Him getting tossed in the third inning, it was, for me, it was all about who we're bringing in and who can give us a few innings to take us to where we need to be. They made that decision before Alex left. We made a decision of bringing Bernie. He gave us what we needed, and then then everybody saw what happened after that. Bringing. It was pretty much some of the same guys that pitched the night before, and in almost the same situation, same batters, and they came through again. It was another well game played. The double play. It was. It's not perfect, right? It did not start how we wanted it. I mean, it was. How can I explain? I mean, definitely, I didn't want to see Alex getting tossed right there, and I actually missed a lot of what happened I'm in charge of the running game, so the guy steals. I'm looking at second. It was safe. I'm grabbing the phone to see the replay, and then I put the phone down. He was safe. I'm trying to, reset. He's at second now. We got to watch him, and all of a sudden, Alex is running out there. I'm like, what happened? Like I missed that part. Kind of trying to read my notes on what are we gonna do now. Lindor at second, and I ended up actually finding out later in the inning. Like the pitch was right down the middle. He didn't call a strike. The argument, and you look at the video. He tells him get on the mound. Well, he's on the mound. You're the one running out there.
Right.
You're halfway there.
Right.
Like he's actually standing on the dirt on the mound. Like he's just asking you a question, So Alex pretty much saw everything, and then after watching, I don't blame him from going out there and getting as mad as he was. It was we needed more from that guy at that point, and we knew where we were. And it's not about it's about where we know we're gonna be now the next day, because if you use everybody, we're going to need to use everybody, and a lot of guys are going to be down, and I know it's hard. Sometimes you talk about winning today, and it's tough because you do have games the next day. It's those kind of situations when you have a day off the next day. It's an easy one, but no, we're in May, and those guys keep throwing innings in the bullpen. Who tells you they're going to be sharp and healthy at the end of the year if we keep throwing them out there? It just gets hard. Tough decisions. Thinking about the next day, and sometimes you don't, but sometimes you kind of have to.
Well, it's funny to think you talk about the next day after your game as the acting manager while Alex was attending his daughter's graduation events. You dramatically took off your hat and said, "I'm retiring as a manager." And then the next day you were right back into the thick of things. I am curious. Are you going to be pulling kind of the Brett Favre style, like retirement, unretirement path on us? Are you those couple of days, like the days when you get to occupy that seat, does it make you have a greater hunger or appreciation for the job of manager, or does it make you think, you know what? Like this is, I love what I do. I love being kind of this integral contributor who's behind the scenes, but I'm happy for someone else to have that main chair.
I'm thinking in the future at some point, if somebody gives me the opportunity, like I would love to do it. Like I said, it's been a while now managing in the winter, and I know it's a different stage, right? Best baseball in the world, and I know what it comes with. It's I've seen Alex all the time away, and he has a home here, and the meetings. There's a lot that comes with being in charge, and I understand that, but definitely I would love the challenge in the future. I was thinking about this the other day, talking, and a lot of people have called me and asked me stuff in the last few days, and I'm gonna be 49, and next year is gonna be my 30th spring training. Like I'm gonna be 50 next year during the season. This is more than half of my life in this game, I've seen a lot of different sides of it as a player, as a coach. I was an infield coach in San Diego in 17. Tough experience that year, and then I come back here. I was going to be an infield coordinator that year before Alex called me to invite me to come here, and I ended up getting the job here in 18, and I've been here since, doing a lot of different things. I coached first, bench coach. I was just an extra coach. Always doing a lot of things that I feel I'm good at, to help the players. For me, it's all about the players, being there for the players, and that's what I have tried to do since I've been here in 18. And maybe it's time to, kind of bring my voice up and that I would love to do it. I just don't know if I'll ever get the opportunity. You know, I haven't gotten. I thought at this point I would have at least an interview, and I never have. I felt like I've been in charge, you know, of different teams, and for a while now, like in Winnable and Santurce, I was there for about 4 or 5 years, and I was been in Caguas for 4 years, but never really had gotten that chance, you know, and been here since 18. I've learned a lot about that aspect of the game, managing and you know, being next to Alex and seeing him. Obviously, the last 3 years, obviously, I've learned the most about this job. Would love the opportunity at some point in my career. Definitely, I don't see myself, to be honest with you, doing this. That's after 60. Like, I actually hopefully have grandkids. My son is here around somewhere. And
No pressure.
No pressure.
Hopefully at the right time, right? At the right time.
Yeah.
He's in college now.
Right.
But you know, I think at that age, I would love to be home and spend time with. Hopefully, I still have my parents. I still have them, and get to spend some time with them and do things that I've never been able to do while being part of this game. You know, watching Alex going to his graduation. I thought that was great. You know, what people don't know is like they have no idea how much we miss. Like since they're born all the way till now, graduating from college. You know, we miss first steps, first birthdays. We miss, you know, first word, first time it says dad, mom. You know, all these things. We miss so much stuff. You know, and I bet everybody does. Everybody, people that work 8 to 5, they probably miss a lot of things too. But the traveling, being away, completely gone. You know, back in the day, we were not making that minimum salary this guy's made these days. It's actually life-changing. You know, you can have your family travel from day one in the big leagues and be with you 24/7. But, you know, it's still a tough life if you do it that way. So him going and doing that and spending that time, not that time, because that special time with Camila and share that moment of graduation, I thought I would do the same thing, you know. So anyway, going back to the opportunity of managing, we'll love it at some point in the future. We'll see if it happens for me. I really don't know if it will happen or not.
Well, you've earned the right. We hope you get it. I want to get, if they can take the shot of you full again, get rid of us for a second, just show Ramon. I thought the framing's interesting because, you know, you could take that door and bring it to the ballpark and cover up that phone. Like they need a door over at the ballpark. So maybe you can grab that off your electrical panel. Maybe not. Ramon, we appreciate the visit. It's been quite a week, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us. Thanks for jumping on.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for having me.
All right, so you're in Milwaukee, as are the Red Sox, obviously. Atlanta this weekend, they've been playing much improved baseball over the last 3-4 weeks. The Angels were supposed to be the easy par 3 on the course, but they're not that anymore. And then we're going to get the Yankees for the first time. So, again, we started the show with this. Alex, this is a really important 3 or 4 weeks. I think we're going to know a whole lot more, right? Because all of a sudden we're going to be staring down the end of June, talking about the trade deadline. They won't get a hitter better than Alex Bregman after the deadline. So we'll count down the days to the return of Alex Bregman, which is back to the sort of narrative we've had the last few Julys, waiting for people to come back. But you know, what you do at the deadline is probably going to be determined in a lot of ways by what you do over the next 3 or 4 weeks with Alex Bregman.
And, you know, there's this question of whether or not the Red Sox might consider shorter-term trades, but I wonder if they kind of have to hold back based on the possibility that they might end up being in a position of being sellers at the deadline if this thing goes off the rails. I mean, we've opened up a number of the number of kind of the range of outcomes for this Red Sox team has kind of exploded over the course of the last little bit of time. again, there's a pathway for them to remain competitive, for them to stabilize. They'll need young players to perform as if they're not young players. That's a tall order, but it sometimes happens. Maybe the 2022 Orioles are in some ways a decent analog, where they were kind of led by young players like Adley Rutschman, among others, right after they had been called up. Again, the pitching staff has a significant role in terms of being able to stabilize them, but this is going to be a very interesting scramble for the Red Sox and dictating some very interesting decisions moving forward.
Well, it begins with getting longer starts. We know that getting 4 1/3, 4 2/3 from your bullpen every single night is not sustainable, and that's where they've been really over the last 3 weeks now. So it begins there, but that ends us. It ends here for us, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Alex, great stuff. Thanks for finding Wi-Fi in Milwaukee and being our remote reporter. Great to see you.
Pivotal search for technology, Tom. Always good talking to you.
And caffeine, and you accomplish both. So well done. That's Alex Speier of the Boston Globe. I'm Tom Caron Alex Speier, and this has been 310 to Left, presented by your New England Ford dealers and F-Series, the best-selling truck in America for 48 years and the official truck of the Boston Red Sox. For everyone here at NESN, we'll see you again next time. Thanks for checking it out.